Welcome to episode 53 of the Clarity podcast. I was about to say this will be a quick one. I say that every time, and it's never really as quick as I think it's going to be. But I'm going to do my best today because I'm in Enfield, maybe, waiting for my son's football to start. And then I realised I haven't done a podcast, so here we are. But yesterday I was in Bishop Stortford, which not that this probably has any relevance to anyone unless you live very close to me. But the reason it was relevant to me is because there's I've been around, all over the place throughout however many years, right? I like to go to new places. I like to travel to new places. If I can, find if it's with the kids, it's like I like new and fresh. I feel like new experiences seem to be quite novel for me. They seem to be quite exciting. I feel like going somewhere new seems to make me more present sometimes, or almost more sense of appreciation. It's almost like that awe and that wonder. I think when things become normal in our lives, we tend to forget to appreciate them. We tend to take things for granted. We tend to normalize things. At one stage in our life, for example, depending on how old you are, right? Cruise control in your car or parking sensors would have been like, whoa, like amazing. Got a little screen that tells me how far I am from the car behind. Like that's crazy. Um, but after a while, you just hang on. Actually, excuse me, clearing my throat. Okay, I'm good. After a while, these things just become normal. You just expect them, right? You get with a new partner, and the same thing can happen, or your wife, or whatever, or a new house, or new job, or money, or life circumstances change, and you can just forget, right? It's weird that I come up with weird things like parking sensors. I just remember as technology increased throughout my life, I went from a time of, not really a ton of technology to lots of technology. And then all of that technology getting better and doing things that we can only dream of. I could never imagine the day where I'd have a phone in my hand that means I can watch football or, see someone else's face in real time who's the other side of the world. Like it's crazy, but we just take things for granted, right? Dial up internet and having to, go to Blockbusters and get a tape, a VHS to go home and play it, all of that stuff. Things just change in our life, and we can so easily just forget to appreciate the things that are easier, better. If your life circumstances have got better, it's so easy to forget actually how far you've come or how things look now compared to how they once did, or the things you have now that you once dreamt of, the things you have now that you used to always look forward to having, or had on your bucket list or your in your journal or in your goals list for a certain period of time. And yet we can just so easily normalize things. So what I find fascinating about going to new places is that it's almost like it puts me in a state of presence. I seem to just be really mindful of everything, and everything is quite like interesting and exciting. The buildings are different, and there's just a newness and a freshness to it. And in the same way that I was saying we take things for granted, I think sometimes when you go back to the same places, you forget to get present. You just know where things are, so you can almost drive there, park up, get out, arrive where you're going, and you don't even remember even paying attention because you've almost haven't needed to. The brain just chucks everything in the habit pile and kind of takes over. But also, what I like is I don't know if anyone else has this experience, but when I go back to places I haven't been for a while, it almost feels like going back in time to a previous chapter. So going back here, it kind of reminded me of certain parts of my life where I'm like, oh my God, the last time I was here, I was doing X, Y, and Z. Or, oh my God, the last time I was here, um, and it almost just takes me right back to a period of my life 10 years ago, or a period of my life um, a year ago, or a period. And it's amazing how much my life circumstances have changed in, well, I mean, they've changed every year. Probably for most people, you look back 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. My life has changed so much, so many times, so often, and sometimes in ways that I hoped, and sometimes in ways that I never predicted. Um, yeah, and you might be like, this is not where I thought I was going to be, or I thought It might be a good or a bad, might be positive or negative, but either way, it's different, and I find that really fascinating. But assuming things have gone well, or even if they haven't actually, it doesn't really matter. My point of this kind of short reflection here is to think about just when we look back, depending on the way you view the past. I've seen some people seem to view the past as overly negative. Um, there's someone that comes to mind who, uh, I've shared experiences with, and it's always interesting when I look back and they look back, how I always had more of a positive memory compared to them. But I would say that they had more of a negative memory. I'm like, I think you're remembering that worse than it was, and they would say, I think you're remembering that more positively than it was. And I'm like, isn't that interesting? Because the past is literally just a memory. And if we look at the science around this, the science really suggests that we are really not that good at remembering the past. We're remembering our memory of the past, but our memory of the past is based on our perception of the past and our emotions that we felt in that moment. Now, we all know how bad our perception is. How many times have you had an argument and you say, yeah, but you said this and this, and I didn't say that. And you're like, you did. And then you're like, did you? I'm sure you did. I'm sure that's what you said. And they're saying, well, I said this. That's not what I heard. And they're saying, well, you said this. And I'm like, I didn't say that. What are you talking about? That's not what I said. I said this. And then you're like, I actually don't know who said what anymore, because I don't know if you're remembering it wrong or I'm remembering it wrong. And it all becomes a bit confusing. I'm like, I don't even know. So really, there's no point talking about this. Why don't we talk about it in the present moment of now and address what we actually meant and what we, so that we can just kind of clear that up, right? But with things like stress hormones and stuff, this is where if we go down like the route of looking at like crime and stuff like that, in extreme cases of stress, our memory is distorted as well. So sometimes, um, if something bad has happened to me and I now need to, detail what that was for the police or whatever, there's tons of studies into this, that we can sometimes remember details wrong, etc. So it's fascinating. Anyway, I'm going down on a tangent, but I think you probably are following the thread here that the past is just a memory. It doesn't exist anymore. But what I find fascinating about it is sometimes you look back, how many of these pages on Instagram are like these nostalgic pages where you think, oh my God, we were living our best times and we didn't even know it. You look back at school and you think, oh, that was amazing, but at the time we didn't even know it. Or I've seen like reels on Insta and it's about gaming and stuff, and I read the comments. I love reading people's comments because I know there's a lot of shit and negativity and bullshit and bellends on socials, but there's also a lot of good people as well and interesting comments and interactions. And people are like, detailing how they used to come home and play with these friends online every night, and it was such an amazing time to be alive. And then one day it all just comes to an end, and they don't even have contact with those people anymore. And they're like, I really was living the best years of my life, and I didn't even realize. And there's that. That's the theme. People saying school was the best years of their life and they didn't know it. And then they'll tell that to their kids and their kids don't believe it, because they don't feel that way, and they'll probably grow up and go, oh, school was the best. And this, again, this just points to something really interesting, that was it as good, or, did we not have the ability to know how good it was, or were you just remembering it better than it was, or was it really good, but we didn't know it was good, or was it good and we felt it was good? Like, it's just fascinating because for me, I actually really enjoyed school as an example, and I knew I enjoyed it. And my dad would tell me it's the best years of your life, and I fully enjoyed it. However, I always wanted to grow up. I always was like, yeah, I'm enjoying myself, but I can't wait to be working. I can't wait to have money. I can't wait to have my own house. And all these things you then have. And you're like, why was I wishing my life away for this? Or, um, and what this all points to is a few things really, that our brain is terrible at remembering the past. And our brain is actually really not that great at predicting what's going to make us happy in the future. There's a book on this, and I can't remember the title. I can picture the I stumbling upon happiness, stumbling on happiness, something like that. And it's quite, it's quite scientific-y. It's you don't have to. It's not like reading a journal, but it is like it's not like poetic and flowy like a lot of the spiritual books I like reading, or kind of poetic books I like reading, or story based. It is a bit more kind of studies and etc. But this points to this conversation quite a lot, actually, which reminds me I should read that again. But it's all just pointing at how terrible we are at predicting what's going to make us happy, and also how bad our memory is as well. That comes into it, I think. Don't quote me on that. But the reason I'm sharing this is because when I remember back to being in this town and the different thoughts I had, and etc., I do look back and I think, oh, that was a good time. But then I'm like, but did I wake up every day in that time thinking, wow, I'm the happiest man in the world, and skipping and dancing around and doing cartwheels because life was so euphoric and, ecstatic? No. Just like now, I would have had good days, bad days, moments of deep appreciation, because I was already into this stuff back then. I was already a coach, even going back 10 years. I'd have had up days, down days, good days, bad days. Some days things would have felt as good as I thought they should, and some days they wouldn't. Some things would have felt better than I thought they would, and sometimes they would have felt worse than I thought they would. Sometimes I would have been having the best day in the world, where even eating food and smelling the fresh air would have felt like I'd won at life. And there would have been days where I probably forgot to notice anything and just felt like I was just trying to get through the day. Much like then, much like now, we have good days, bad days, ups, downs. Sometimes we feel appreciation, and sometimes we forget to. Sometimes we forget to notice. But I think what this all points to, as always, is we can romanticize the past, and we can also romanticize the future. And we can spend our life chasing the things we think are going to make us happy, and chasing dreams and goals. And I'll be happy when, things are good now, but imagine when I'm in a Lambo, or imagine when I've got a big house and I've got a nicer view, like across the fields. And if you've got that, it's then okay. Imagine when I've got a boat, or imagine when, I don't know, I've got a butler, like in Tomb Raider, following me around with food. Um, there's always a I'll be happy when, there's always more, there's always something else, there's always something we don't have. It's very easy to chase the next thing. But what's interesting, and I think this is my point in amongst my rambles today, is it can be so easy to forget to notice the present moment of now. It can be so easy to not enjoy what we have now. It can be so easy to forget to appreciate everything we have now. Yes, we still have goals and dreams and aspirations. Aspiration, is that the word? Goals and dreams and aspirations. But that doesn't have to take away the joy we have now. That doesn't need to take away the appreciation for the things we have now. It doesn't need to take away the enjoyment in this moment, because you might be living your best days right now and not even know it. You might look back at this exact moment of now and think, God, I didn't realize how good my life was, or God, I didn't realize how good I had it, or God, I didn't realize how young I was, or how fit I was, or how strong I was, or I don't know, like how much I love my kids at that age, or how much I enjoy my relationship at that age, or how whatever it is, right? You could be living your best years right now and not even know, not even notice, not even realize, and look back and wish you'd enjoyed it more. I've had that regret myself a lot, and I've heard a lot of my clients that have, worked and built their business, and um, put the work in, etc. Generally, often, not always, but often have sacrificed their relationship with their wife and their kids and their health, and then they sell their business, and yeah, they've now got millions in the bank, and they go, oh. And I quote, they say, I wish I'd enjoyed it more. I wish I had allowed myself to enjoy the journey more. And it's like, yeah. So, and you can't get those years back. You can't get that time back. You can't reverse aging on yourself or your children or your partner or whoever is in your life, right? You can't, if you've lost someone close to you, you can't rewind time. You can't go back to those times. If you've lost even a pet, for example, it's like all these moments in time are what life is. I can't speak very well today. I'm sorry for that. I'm doing my best. It's Sunday morning. Um, all these moments are the moments that we may look back on, when we're dying, assuming we die of natural causes in old age or something. We might look back at this time as some of the best years of our life. We may look back at this time as the glory days. We may look back at this time and wish we'd appreciated it. Appreciated it. Why can't I speak? Maybe I should appreciate my ability to talk more because right now it seems to be eluding me. But for me personally, that's one of my biggest fears is dying and having regrets. I don't want to waste a moment of this life, even when it seems shit, even when you're stuck in traffic or when the day's gone wrong, or I don't want to lose a single moment. If I've drunk my coffee and I don't remember drinking it, I'm like, ah, because it shows me that I wasn't present. And I love drinking coffee and I don't want to even lose a moment of joy. Uh, so I'm always, and always have been, trying to bring myself to the present moment and trying to appreciate the present moment and try and enjoy it for everything that it is. Because, as I've said, as I've repeated, maybe I'll look back at these years and wish I was this young again, or wish that my kids were this young again, or wish that my life looked like it currently does, right? Also, I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow or next week. We always assume we've got 70 years. Well, we don't know. I don't want to die tomorrow and be sat in heaven going, oh, great. I kind of wish I'd enjoyed it more. Like, that's just not the game I want to play. Um, and yeah, okay, that doesn't mean that every day I wake up and go, wow, I'm so blessed. I kind of wish I did feel that way. But unfortunately, as humans, of course we get sucked into life. We wake up, we feel ill, or we realize that we've got a million things to do, or, there's deadlines and there's things that, cause us stress, dysregulate our nervous system, etc., etc. Life is never going to be happy every second of every day. That's a trap if you think it's going to be. But we can still move through it gracefully and with joy and consciously try to focus on appreciation in this moment and presence in this moment and try and treat every moment as precious because it is. You probably get the point. I've waffled for 17 minutes and I've gone in a million directions, but I think the essence behind what I'm saying here is probably carried through, even despite me seemingly falling over my words. I've done my best. I've had fun. Hopefully you have too. But to conclude, as every spiritual book and a lot of practices point to, mindfulness, Eckhart Tolle, the Tao Te Ching, I could keep naming everything that seems to just point to the present moment. That's it, actually. Present, I would say present moment and appreciation. Just remember to appreciate where you're at. You can still want more. You can still work towards goals. You can still want to change the things that you're not so happy with, or you may still have preferences, and that's cool. But just don't forget to enjoy now because we're all going to wake up one day and be old and wrinkly and be like, oh shit, I kind of wish I'd enjoyed that more. So why don't we start enjoying it now? Anyway, thanks for being here. Appreciate you listening. I'll speak to you soon.